In the winter of 1996, Boulder, Colorado was a quiet, affluent community. Residents here felt entirely secure behind their front doors. That sense of safety vanished the day after Christmas, when 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey was found murdered inside her own home. The event instantly gripped the nation's attention, saturating news broadcasts and living room conversations across the country. Decades have passed since that morning. Law enforcement agencies have conducted thousands of interviews, and forensic technology has taken massive leaps forward. Yet no one has ever been convicted of the crime. The investigation has stalled because the available evidence points in irreconcilable directions. The forensic record is a paradox. To understand why this case remains so difficult to solve today, we have to look at how these central forensic findings directly contradict one another. The timeline begins early on December 26th. Patsy Ramsey dialed 911 at 5:52 a.m. to report her daughter missing. Police arrived at the house just minutes later, but the officers who first walked through the door made a critical procedural error. They searched the immediate areas, but failed to secure the entirety of the house. Large portions of the home were left open and unmonitored. Because the perimeter wasn't locked down, friends, neighbors, and family members were allowed to move freely throughout the property for hours. They cleaned surfaces, moved objects, and walked directly through potential suspect paths. That failure to establish a strict boundary meant that any physical traces left by the perpetrator collided with the footprints and fingerprints of innocent people. The house was no longer a pristine crime scene. It was severely contaminated. The most prominent physical anomaly was a handwritten ransom note found on the staircase. It was exceptionally long, 2.5 pages, and demanded exactly $118,000 for JonBenét's safe return. A kidnapping for ransom involves taking the victim to a secondary location, but that narrative collapsed hours later when JonBenét was discovered in a basement room of the very same house. Investigators were baffled. A suspect had apparently spent significant time inside the home drafting a detailed note, only to leave the victim on the property. The physical outcome completely defied the written motive. This document created a deep fracture in the case. It suggested an outside kidnapping, while the physical location of the victim suggested an internal event, pulling the investigation in two entirely different directions at once. The physical evidence at the scene only widened that divide. Investigators found a broken window in the basement, an unidentified footprint, and marks on the victim that suggested an unknown intruder had entered the home. At the same time, police heavily scrutinized the people who were already inside the house. Detectives focused intensely on the internal theory, noting family behavior and the fact that the ransom note was written on paper from inside the home. The challenge for investigators was separating verified physical findings, like the broken window and foreign boot prints, from the rampant, unproven public speculation surrounding the family's potential involvement. This physical divide created a deadlock. Two distinct camps emerged within the investigative team, and without definitive proof leaning heavily either way, progress ground to a halt. Modern trace DNA analysis identifies specific genetic markers. Investigators hoped applying this technology to cellular material on the victim's clothing could finally break the stalemate. But the profile didn't match the parents or known suspects. Instead, it revealed an unknown, unidentified male. Rather than delivering a final answer, this technological advancement just added a massive new variable. It invalidated early assumptions and proved that the full picture was even more complex than anyone realized. While detectives struggled with the physical evidence, they were also fighting an intense external battle. The 24/7 news cycle seized on the affluent family and the conflicting anomalies, broadcasting public obsession and theories around the clock. This relentless coverage actively damaged the investigation. Information leaked, witnesses were paid for interviews, and public entertainment blurred the lines, actively hindering law enforcement's objective search for the truth. Today, the procedural failures of that first morning are taught in police academies. The case forced law enforcement across the country to overhaul how they immediately secure crime scenes, ensuring this specific type of early contamination never happens again. Beneath the chaotic theories, the contaminated crime scene, and decades of media noise, there remains a profound human tragedy. A young child lost her life in the one place she should have been safe. The JonBenét Ramsey investigation endures as a stark reminder. It shows us exactly how fragile justice can be when the initial search for the truth is compromised from the very start.